You won't believe what viewers say. They just witnessed on Jackie's live show. Chantal stepped up to the mic and, according to people in the room, hinted that Ty's marriage could be in real trouble after whispers of Evelyn's hidden affair spilled out on air. We are not saying this is confirmed. We're reacting to what's being reported and what the audience claims they saw. The studio went quiet in an instant. Jackie blinked hard, Evelyn's shoulders locked, and Ty's name started climbing trends. Before the segment even cut to break, crew members, by all accounts, froze mid-cue while the chat flooded with "show the receipts and protect the family." Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family was left divided in real time, half begging for compassion, half demanding answers. Chantal's line echoing through the clips is simple and brutal. If we're being honest, the message is, look real enough to ask questions. Evelyn, barely above a whisper, replied, "Not here, not like this." And that's the moment everyone keeps replaying. Again, we're talking about what people say happened, not declaring facts. But the question spreading across timelines right now is the one that stings the most. Was this a reckless stunt for ratings? Or the first crack in a story that's about to break wide open? The studio floor felt too bright for the kind of whispers swirling through the audience, and yet that's exactly where people say it started to unravel. Jackie's team had set the room the way they always do for a big night. Soft lighting, a semicircle of cream chairs, a low coffee table, and a live chat wall pulsing like a heartbeat behind the cameras. According to folks seated near the front row, there had already been murmurings backstage about private messages and late-night check-ins. But nobody expected Chantal to walk out with her phone in one hand and a folded envelope in the other. Voice steady as she said, "If we're being honest, what I've seen is enough to ask questions. To be crystal clear, we're not claiming any of this is proven. We're reflecting what people who were there say they saw and what the live comments were screaming in real time." From the jump, Ty sat with a careful smile, fingers interlaced so tightly her knuckles paled. Evelyn's posture was straight as a spear, chin lifted, expression unreadable.com surface over deep water. Jackie leaned forward in host mode, but even she looked rattled when the chat wall surged with the word receipts. A producer waved frantically from the wings, trying to steer the conversation back to safe territory, new projects. A charity gala, but the crowd's energy shifted, thick and electric, like a thunderstorm rolling in on a clear day. Fans are shocked was the vibe, and you could feel it in the way laughter died into hushes. A woman in the second row clasped her hands and whispered, "Please don't do this here," while someone near the aisle whispered back, "If not here, then where?" What viewers described next is the moment Chantal pushed the story from rumor into a confrontation. She didn't call it proof. She called it context. She said an unnamed friend had messaged her screenshots showing a string of flirty check-ins and a photo that, if authentic, implied closeness that went beyond casual. "I'm not saying it's real," Chantal added, eyes shining under the rig lights. "I'm saying it looks real enough to ask for clarity." Ty's breath hitched, a tiny sound caught by a hot mic. Evelyn's jaw flexed. Jackie, according to multiple audience members, whispered, "Let's be respectful," which only made the chat scroll faster, the word respect repeating like a drumbeat while hearts and angry faces floated across the monitor. Emotions ran high right there on the stage. Ty tugged her sleeve as if it were a lifeline, then set her palms flat on her knees to stop the tremor. "I just got married," she said gently, "and I want to protect my home." No one shouted her down. In fact, a stillness fell across the rows, a breath the entire room seemed to take together. Chantal nodded, voice softer. "I hear you," she said. "And I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think silence was already hurting you." We are repeating what people in the room say they heard. The episode is trending because it felt personal, raw, and dangerously close to the line. The camera cut briefly to Evelyn, whose eyes glinted the way glass does when light hits it just so. She spoke carefully, measured, like stepping across stones. "In a river, I won't debate my private life on air," she said. "Not like this." Could sense the room tilt. Half the audience leaned toward compassion, half toward answers. The family was left divided, is how a commenter put it as the chat split into two camps, those begging to change the subject and those typing ask her directly. Jackie tried to build a bridge, saying, "We can pause here," but the pressure had already broken the surface. A crew member coughed. A stage manager lifted 3 fingers, the silent countdown to go to break, and then lowered them when Chantel spoke again. What she said wasn't a bombshell so much as a match. "Someone in your circle reached out to me," she told Ty, "and asked me to stop you from making a mistake." The word circle hit like a ripple that turned into a wave. Because if someone close to Ty had been worried enough to contact Chantal, that meant the issue wasn't just internet noise. Again, we are not verifying any of these messages. We're telling you what audience members, crew, and live viewers insist they witnessed and why they think the energy shifted from curious to combustible. Ty turned her head slowly, scanning faces as if the truth might be hiding in the lights. It was such a small movement, yet it made the room feel huge, like the distance between one chair and the next had become a canyon. Jackie stepped in like a referee who loves both fighters. "We're not accusing," she said, her tone calm enough to quiet the first few rows. "We're acknowledging what's being said online and giving people a chance to speak for themselves." A murmur of agreement rolled across the floor. Chantal lowered the envelope. Ty nodded once, a measured acceptance of the moment. Evelyn folded her hands and tilted her head, something between defiance and restraint in the angle of her neck. She said, "I have nothing to confess," then added in a whisper barely caught by the nearest mic, "But I have boundaries." That single line sparked think pieces within an hour. What counts as confession? What counts as boundary? And who gets to decide in a public forum that thrives on shock, according to a lighting tech? The entire set felt warmer, as if the bulbs had dialed up a degree even though no one touched the board. Whispers rose and fell like tidewater. A man in the back row cleared his throat and called out, gentle but firm, "No more pain for ratings." The audience clapped and then went quiet, again as if the sound itself made them self-conscious. Chantel looked to Jackie for direction. Jackie looked at Ty. Ty looked at Evelyn. The triangle of glances said everything a script never could. Connection, history, unspoken promises, and the thin ice they were all stepping across to get through this segment without drowning. Ty spoke slowly, shaping each word like a delicate object. "I love my partner," she said. "I respect my friend." She placed a hand over her heart, and her voice dipped. "If there's something I should know, I can hear it. But I can't be humiliated for entertainment." The line landed with a thud of recognition because even the folks who wanted answers knew the cost of getting them the wrong way. The chat wall, which had been a cyclone of emojis, actually slowed for a moment, as if the collective realized they were peeking through a window they had no right to open. Fans are shocked lingered across the screen in a dozen spellings. But the tone shifted from frenzy to concern. A stagehand slipped a small box onto the tableau, discreet prop that read like a peace offering. Jackie touched it with 2 fingers. "We can set these pages aside," she said, nodding to Chantel's envelope. "And we can talk about what trust looks like when thousands of people are watching." Chantal exhaled and lowered her gaze. "I didn't come here to break you," she said softly, according to a front row witness. "I came because someone begged me to help before the internet did more damage." If true, that detail changed the narrative from sabotage to intervention. And that nuance is why the episode is being debated so fiercely right now. Then, quietly, almost shyly, Evelyn leaned into her mic. "If a friend is in pain," she said, "the kindest thing we can do is ask what would help." It wasn't a confession. It wasn't denial. It was a pivot toward care. Ty's shoulders dropped half an inch. Jackie nodded. and the tension inside the lights softened just a touch. By multiple accounts, the audience responded not with cheers, but with a soft murmur. The sound people make when they want something to heal, even as they keep their curiosity. The producers in the booth, were told, hovered over the break button, and then eased back again, sensing a moment that might actually serve the people involved instead of just feeding the algorithm. Still, the question of the envelope lingered like perfume in the air. Should it be opened? Should it be saved for a private room? Chantal slid it toward the edge of the table. "I'll hand this to the team," she said, addressing Jackie more than anyone else. "Let whoever needs to see it, off camera." That simple choice felt like someone finally locating the brake pedal. The chat wall split again half. Open it, half protector, and that's the fault line. Running through every conversation about the clip today, the family was left divided, and not just theirs. The fandoms, the group chats, the stan pages. All of them arguing over whether transparency is compassion or cruelty when the heart at stake belongs to an actual person with a home to return to. After the credits rolled, Jackie closed her hands around the envelope without opening it. The cameras pushed in, lenses humming. She said, "We can end this segment with care," according to a sound OP. That was when the air finally felt breathable again. A few audience members stood and stretched as if they'd been holding the same posture for an hour. Ty glanced at the exit, then back at her friends. She didn't bolt, she didn't cry, she just nodded, as if to say, "Not today." Evelyn smoothed her skirt and sat a little taller, dignified without being distant. Chantal wiped beneath one eye and gave a small, apologetic smile, one that said she knew she'd lit a match, even if she'd meant to light a candle. And when they did go to a break, it wasn't a cliffhanger so much as a relief valve. A mellow track rose in the speakers, the house lights warmed, and crew led the audience into a soft chatter so the pressure could bleed off the room. We cannot claim to know what happened once the cameras stopped. We can only tell you what the people in those seats, the folks behind the lenses, and the tidal wave of live comments insist unfolded in front of them. They say a boundary was set, a wound acknowledged, and a choice made to move the next conversation away from the glare. In a world that feeds on spectacle, that choice landed like its own plot twist, quiet, humane, and, for a moment, enough. Backstage, the quiet wasn't really quiet at all. It was the hum of vending machines, the beep of headsets, and the low swirl of voices carrying pieces of sentences that never quite landed. People who claim they were in the hallway say Jackie walked Ty and Evelyn into a small dressing room. With a couch that had seen better days, placed the sealed envelope on the coffee table, and asked everyone to breathe before anyone spoke. Chantal stayed by the door, hands folded, phone face down. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said, softer now. "Someone begged me to keep you from making a choice you couldn't take back." We're not confirming that line. We're repeating what several staffers insist they heard as they passed with garment bags and clipboards. Ty sat on the edge of the couch, toes barely grazing the carpet, and looked at the envelope like it might whisper to her. "If there's truth in there," she said quietly, "I want to hear it somewhere my heart won't be turned into a spectacle." The room held its breath. Evelyn nodded once, a small movement that still felt like a decision. "I'll talk," she said, "but I won't be cross-examined by strangers." Jackie, balanced between friend and host, pressed her palms together. "Then we do this our way," she answered. "No surprises." It sounded simple until a headset crackled at the door and a producer leaned in asking if they could extend the break or pivot to a safer segment. The request landed like a reminder that every second carried a price, according to a tech who swears he was fixing a dead lav pack. A hot mic somewhere hadn't fully clicked off, and a snippet of the dressing room. Audio drifted to a monitor in the control booth. No secrets, spilled, just three voices agreeing that private grief deserved gentler hands. Even that was enough to send ripples across the crew. The chat outside were told slow to beat, as if viewers sensed the temperature shifting. Fans, who had been pounding out, "Open it now," started typing, "Let them talk in peace," and you could feel the tone bend toward care. Emotions ran high, but they bent in a better direction for once. Then Ty's phone buzzed on the table, vibrating against the envelope. She flinched, stared at the screen, and paled. "He wants me home," she said, voice barely there. "We aren't," naming her partner, "and we can't verify who is on the other end." The point is, the message shifted the center of gravity in the room. "I don't want to make a decision with a camera 3 feet away," Ty added, eyes shining. Chantal swallowed hard. "I can give you the screenshots," she offered, "or I can hand everything to legal and step back." Jackie reached for the envelope and slid it across the table toward herself. "Legal first," she said. "We do this right or not at all." Evelyn exhaled and leaned forward, elbows on knees. "I don't want to be the villain in someone else's narrative," she said. "I also don't want anyone to think your marriage is a toy." Her voice, by several accounts, softened. The edges of the moment. Chantal nodded. "I'll wear the blame for bringing it on air," she said. "That helps you heal?" It wasn't quite absolution, but it sounded like the first plank of a bridge. While the room tried to stitch itself together, the hallway spun its own story. A junior assistant, moving too fast with a tray of bottled waters, snapped an accidental photo that caught the corner of the envelope and the edge of Jackie's hand. Within minutes, that blurry image pinged across group chats, tagged with 3 words: "Proof is here." We can't confirm who leaked the photo, but the effect was instant. The crowd in the studio buzzed again. The family was left divided all over. One side arguing that the image meant something seismic, the other saying it meant nothing at all. Jackie's social coordinator, according to someone perched at the comms desk, drafted a message that read, "We will not publish unverified personal content," and waited for Jackie's nod. Jackie gave it. The statement went out across the show's accounts and calmed exactly half the conversation. The other half demanded a denial from Evelyn on the spot. In the dressing room, the pressure snuck back in under the door like a draft. "We can go." "Back out there," Jackie said, "and we can set terms." Ty rubbed her wrist and nodded. "No names," she said. "No timelines. Just boundaries." Evelyn met Chantel's eyes. "And you," she added, "tell them why you did this without reading a single line." Chantal accepted the condition with a quiet okay. A stage manager knocked twice and signaled that the break had 1 minute left. People in the control room later described the countdown as the slowest 60 seconds of the night. When they stepped back under the lights, viewers noticed the difference right away. Ty's spine straighter, Jackie's voice lower, Evelyn's gaze leveled, Chantel's expression humbled. Jackie opened softly. "We hear you," she told the audience, "and we hear each other. We're not here to litigate anyone's marriage. We're here to model what care looks like when rumors get loud." Chantal spoke next. "I brought concerns to the table because I thought silence was already causing harm," she said. "I won't show anything on this stage. I've turned what I have over to the team. I'm sorry for the hurt my timing caused." The room murmured. Some nods, some crossed arms. Ty folded her hands in her lap. "I love my husband," she said. "I respect my friend. I will be making decisions in private, with support, not on command." That one line drew a gentle round of applause from the front rows and typed hearts from the chat. It didn't answer everything. It didn't pretend to. Evelyn leaned into her mic, voice calm as a lake at dusk. "I won't feed speculation," she said, "but I will say this. Friendships deserve honesty. Marriages deserve privacy, and healing deserves time." A few heads in the audience tipped forward in agreement, like flowers finding light. Behind the cameras, a producer pointed to a bright red card that usually means pivot, but Jackie waved it down. "We can take a question," she said, "if it helps us leave here with grace." She chose a woman in the third row who introduced herself as a teacher. "How do you rebuild trust when thousands of people are watching?" The question hung in the air like a bell tone. By remembering they're watching people, not characters, Jackie answered. And by refusing to answer questions that don't belong to the crowd, Ty added. By letting your partner speak. To you first? Chantal offered. By owning the harm of what you've done, even if your intention was protection. Evelyn, after a beat, said, by knowing your no is as sacred as your yes. None of it was a plot twist. But it felt like a map, at least according to half the comments streaming along the wall. Still, another ripple rolled through the room when a short clip flashed on an in-house screen by mistake. A grainy lobby scene. 2 silhouettes, a timestamp in the corner. We cannot confirm what it showed or who or when. The clip winked out as fast as it appeared. A technician slapping a switch and mouthing sorry at the booth. Whispers spiked. That's old. Someone hissed near the aisle. It's not even this city, another shot back. This is the problem with ghosts on screens. They invite your fears to do the casting. Jackie lifted a hand, steady as a metronome. This is what we mean by protecting people from noise, she said. We are not projecting meaning onto shadows, and somehow that helped. The cameras caught chins lifting, shoulders lowering. Security guard handed Jackie a slim folder stamped legal, and she slid the sealed envelope inside without flinching. We're done with props today, she said. Gently, we're choosing process. A light sprinkling of applause, the kind that admits relief. Chantal dabbed the corner of one eye, then faced Ty. I value you, she said. Ty gave the smallest nod, which in that room felt like a mile. The segment wound down, not with fireworks, but with choices stitched together in ordinary words. Jackie thanked the audience for staying present without demanding a spectacle. Ty stood and the audience stood with her, not in ovation, but in respect. Evelyn reached for Ty's hand on instinct. Chantal stepped back to give them space. Behind the camera, the red tally light blinked off, and the house music rose. A warm, low swell that carried everyone toward the exits without shoving them. Out the door, we can't pretend this settled anything beyond the hour. People spilled onto sidewalks and into cars, still arguing about what they'd seen. Some said the restraint proved integrity. Others called it a dodge. Group chats filled with theories. The phrase, fans are shocked, popped up again, less gleeful now, more sober. That's how nights like this go. You don't leave with answers, you leave with yourself. And according to a handful of folks who watched from the wings, that's exactly what each of them did. Took their own heart back from the glare, tucked it away for a quieter room, and walked into the cooler air with something like dignity trailing behind. Outside the studio doors, the night had that city hush that isn't. Quiet at all tiers on wet asphalt, a distant siren, laughter from a bar down the block. People who say they were waiting by the loading dock describe the 4 of them moving as a small constellation under securities. Umbrellas. Jackie in the lead with a slim folder tucked under her arm, tied beside her with both hands wrapped around. Her phone, Evelyn a step back with her jaw set, and Chantal trailing with her eyes on the ground. The sealed envelope was now inside that legal folder. And according to crew chatter, a chain of custody form was already clipped to the front. The plan, they say, was simple. No leaks, no theatrics. Let the lawyers and tech folks sort what's real from what's noise. A valet rolled up with a black SUV and the driver cracked the door. That's when a cluster of voices rose from the sidewalk fans. Bloggers, a couple of neighborhood regulars who had wandered over when they saw the lights. Someone called out, Ty, are you okay? It wasn't a taunt. It sounded like a genuine plea. Ty gave a small nod that read as thank you more than yes. A phone thrust forward caught the reflection of Jackie's face in the passenger window. It's a kind of accidental mirror that spawns 100 captions. Emotions ran high, even in that narrow alley, but the temperature felt different than earlier, less frenzy, more care. People stepped back so they could pass. An usher in a headset whispered, let them breathe. And for once, the crowd listened. Back inside. A conference room glowed with lamplight, while a few producers drafted a public note. A staffer who swears he saw the first version says it read, "We will not adjudicate private lives on air. Any materials shared backstage are with legal for verification. Thank you for respecting boundaries." Short, clean, no sensational spikes. The social coordinator cued it for the show's accounts and added a second slide that said, "If you are hurting tonight, we see you." It was corny to some, a lifeline to others. The family was left divided in the comments, half rolling, their eyes half typing long strings of hearts and praying hands. That split has defined every thread about this episode. One camp demands receipts. The other demands rest. Somewhere between that post and the SUV turning the corner, a new piece hit the feeds. An anonymous email sent to Jackie's tip line and to two gossip pages at the same time claimed the supposed screenshots Chantel referenced were edited with a popular overlay app. We are not confirming that. What we can say is that a tech analyst with a small but loyal following did a quick breakdown on her page, pointing out mismatched timestamps, inconsistent font kerning, and a crop line that didn't match the phone's default. Within minutes, her video racked up tens of thousands of views, and the tone online tilted again, not toward certainty, but toward caution. Fans are shocked turned into fans are unsure, and you could feel the heat ease by a few degrees, according to a person who says they shared a ride with crew. Ty texted Chantal during that window, a message that read something like, "Thank you for stepping back," with a second line that added, "We'll talk with a mediator." If true, that aligns with what several studio hands reported next. The trio met a therapist on site in a small side office that usually houses costume racks. Lights low, phones in airplane mode, the legal folder left with security. It wasn't a summit, it was a reset. People who passed the glass door say they saw slow nods and long silences, not finger pointing. The details of that hour belong to them, but the ripple effect was obvious when they emerged. Their shoulders sat lower and their eyes looked less like glass. Evelyn, by several accounts, typed a short note on her phone that later appeared on her story. "My boundaries are not weapons. My friendships are not fodder. I am protecting the parts of me that cameras do not own." No names, no denial, no confession. The comments split the usual way, but a surprising number of replies read simply, "We understand." Chantel posted, "Nothing." Jackie reposted the show's statement and added 3 words, "We choose care." Ty stayed silent online, and that silence did more work than any paragraph could. Sometimes the only sentence that fits is no sentence at all. Back on the lot, a rumor rolled through the crew that a second envelope had surfaced. This one with network security, a printed timeline from building access logs showing who scanned, into which doors and when. Someone claimed it placed a possible source for the earlier lobby clip in a different wing entirely at the time in question. We cannot verify any of that, and it may never matter publicly. What matters to the people inside this story is that they seem to have chosen process over performance. When a guard slid that second envelope into a safe and spun the dial, the metaphor wrote itself. Close the lid on chaos. Open the door to procedure. There's also the home front. And every story like this ends up there, whether anyone likes it or not. Neighbors on Ty's block traded messages in a private community thread about seeing an extra car in the driveway, about a porch light left on past midnight, about 2 figures talking on the stoop with hands moving more than voices. None of that proves anything, and none of it belongs to the public. But it humanizes the headline. Beyond the stage lights, beyond the trending tags, there is a kitchen table and a couple of mugs cooling. And 2 people who will decide what their future holds without an audience. There's a center to this. Storm? It's probably there. Not on a screen. By morning, recap videos multiplied like rain on glass. One creator praised Chantel's pivot from spectacle to restraint. Another dragged the show for letting it get that far. A third stitched in clips of Jackie's past monologues about empathy and held them up as a mirror to last night's choice. the best of them didn't shout. They asked what responsibility looks like when your platform is big and your friends are in the frame. Analyses of the envelope's thickness, yes. That actually trended. Jokes about the legal folders, dramatic. Weight and conspiracy threads about the brief lobby flicker angle found its audience, and yet tucked between the noise. There were simple notes from people who had been in the blast radius of rumors. Thank you for moving this off air. Then came the small surprise. A producer released a quiet update. An independent digital forensics firm had been retained to examine any materials related to the claims. Not a cliffhanger, not a tease, just a step. They added that no content would be aired or posted without the consent of those involved. That line is the one people keep screenshotting, partly because it's rare, partly because it puts the choice where it belongs. A studio source said the team also reached out to Ty's partner with the same promise of discretion. And if accurate, that means everyone at the center of this will have a seat at the private table before the public. One through all of it. The three friends kept a loose orbit around each other. A driver said he saw them exit a building mid-afternoon and split into two cars with a squeeze of hands at the curb. The kind of squeeze that says, I'm with you even if I'm not next to you for the next few hours. A florist near the studio claims a small order went out under an assistant's name. 3 modest bouquets, 1 white, 1 yellow, 1 blush, delivered without notes. Maybe coincidence, maybe ritual, maybe a way to mark a hard night with something gentle. Whatever it was, that detail softened the edges of a timeline that has otherwise been all screens and statements. By evening, the show taped a short follow-up segment without an audience. No couch, no coffee table, no chat wall. Just Jackie in a simple chair, a lamp at her shoulder, explaining that some conversations are most powerful when nobody but the people inside them can hear. She thanked viewers for caring without demanding, and she asked for patience while professionals sort out what's authentic and what's edited. Anyone who wanted fireworks didn't get them. Anyone who wanted dignity did. Dignity did. So where did that leave everything? Not tidily resolved, but not wreckage either. If you listen to the folks who were actually there, last night moved from accusation to boundaries, from a live flare to quiet repair. Chantel may have lit a fuse, and then chosen to pinch it out before it reached the dynamite. Evelyn may have refused to be baited while still offering care. Ty may have chosen her kitchen table over the stage. Jackie may have risked ratings to model restraint. None of those choices trend as fast as shock, but they linger longer in rooms where real life happens. As the studio doors finally closed and the last riggers coiled their cables, stagehands snapped the house lights off and the room fell in two. That clean dark that only exists after a show. Someone tugged the curtains together. Someone double-checked the safe. Someone set tomorrow's call sheet to private. Outside, a light rain began, tapping on metal stairs and puddling under the street lamp. 3 phones buzzed in, 3 pockets with the same message from the same group thread. Rest tonight. We'll talk tomorrow. That, more than any envelope, is the headline that matters to the people at the center of this story. And that's where we leave it for now. Not because the drama disappeared, but because the people involved decided how it would be handled. If the forensics report clears the fog, you'll hear about it from them, not from a leak. If there are apologies to deliver, they'll happen in living rooms, not on stage. And if there's nothing to explain at all, then this will become one. More cautionary tale about how screens can turn whispers into storms. For the moment, the choice they made to move the heat away from the spotlight and back toward compassion is the only ending that fits the night. They survived. Tonight's whirlwind left more questions than answers, and that's exactly why. People say this moment won't fade fast. On Jackie's stage, Chantel raised what she called context. Ty drew a line to protect her home. Evelyn chose boundaries over spectacle, and that sealed envelope moved from table to legal without a single page shown. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family was left divided right there between curiosity and care. We aren't claiming any of this is confirmed. We're reacting to what viewers say they saw and what insiders insist happened around the break. So, the only certain thing is that the next move will happen off camera first. Now it's your turn to weigh in. If you were in Ty's shoes, would you want the alleged screenshots examined by a private team before anyone speaks? Or do you think silence just feeds the rumor mill? Should Chantal have brought the concern to a mediator instead of a live set? Or did going public stop a worse spiral online? In that brief lobby clip people mentioned, do you think it's an old moment being recycled, an edit or something? That actually matters. Tell us how you'd handle it. Protect the marriage behind closed doors, or address the audience head-on with timelines and receipts once they're verified. If you found this breakdown fair and the tone respectful, tap like to push it to others who want commentary without cruelty. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next update if and when the forensics team weighs in or a joint statement lands. Drop your thoughts below. Share your theory, your advice, or a simple message of support, but keep it kind. You matter in this conversation, and your voice can help steer it away from chaos and toward clarity. We'll keep listening. We'll keep reminding you what's confirmed and what's just chatter. Fida. And we'll be right here when the people at the center decide what they want the world to know. Tonight's fallout leaves more questions than answers, and that's exactly why your voice matters right now. From Chantal's on-air push for context to Ty drawing a line to protect her home. From Evelyn choosing boundaries over spectacle to Jackie sliding that sealed envelope too. Legal, every beat pointed to one thing. Handle it with care. Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high. And the family was left divided between people begging for receipts and people begging for mercy. We're not saying any of this actually happened. We're reacting to what viewers say they saw and what insiders claim was shared around the breaks. So tell me, if you were in Ty's place, what would you want next? A quiet review by a private team before anyone speaks, or a verified timeline released later so rumors don't write the ending for you? If you were Chantal, would you take those concerns to a mediator off camera? Or do you believe the live call-out prevented a harsher internet spiral? And for those who caught that brief lobby flicker, do you think it was recycled footage, an edit, or something irrelevant that stirred the pot? Drop your take in the comments. Keep it thoughtful, keep it kind. Whose choice resonated most with you tonight? And what would real repair look like from here? If you appreciate commentary that keeps compassion at the center and separates signal from noise, tap like so more people who want nuance can find this. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you're the first to know if a joint statement lands, if a forensics update clarifies those screenshots, or if the circle decides to speak together on their own terms. Share this with a friend who follows the show and ask them what they do. Your perspective helps steer this conversation away from chaos and toward clarity, and we're listening.